All right, what is up, guys? Quick recap from yesterday, June 12th. We went 5-3. We went over 500. Ended up losing money on the day, but that's okay because for the month of June, we are overall still a net positive. Quite surprising, especially considering I lost almost 36 units on the second. Still not sure what happened there. That was a big fuck up on my part. But we're still positive on the net. And you can't always have massive days. So sucking it up a little bit on a small slate day, probably the best case scenario here. Let's really quickly go over those 3 games that I lost. The Cardinals and Brewers, if I pull up that tab, that one was a bad read on my part. If you look, you can see Cardinals, Brewers should have followed the trend. I thought that the Cards were going to bounce back, but that was a bad read on my part. The Rangers, also a bad read on my part. I didn't even take game 1 into account, and I should have because they almost perfectly recreated it. Yankees, however, I still stand by my pick on this one because looking at the hitting stats here, they had the same amount of hits. The Royals actually had more bases than the Yankees. And the reason that the Yankees won was because of an error by a guy whose entire job is throw. So I think that was just a bad stroke of luck. And I think if I were to do it again, I would still pick the Royals to win that game. So those were the 3 losses. Again, we went 5-3 yesterday. It was negative money with my round robin, but I think it's good. It was a small negative. I'll take it because you can't win them all. On to today's slate. We've got a full slate again. So we're going to go through these one by one. Some a little bit more time than others. But once again, my betting procedure is that I do a straight on each of these with a full unit. And then I also do a half unit or sometimes a quarter unit on these larger slate days. 2-leg round robin. So our first game here, we've got the Pirates and the Cubs. I took the Cubs to win this one. ESPN's on my side. They say almost 60% chance that the Cubs are going to win. And I think if we look at pitching here, yes, Paul Skeens is an elite pitcher. He's got an incredibly small ERA, but he can't win the games. I don't want to say he can't win the games because it's really his team that's failing him here. I think the bats of Chicago are just going to be too much for the pitching from Paul Skeens. So that was my thought process for that one. I'm going to take the Cubs to win that. Next, we've got the Marlins and the Nationals, going a little bit out of order here. I picked the Nationals to win this one, and I picked this in spite of the fact that Mitchell Parker has a 4-6 record and a higher ERA. I picked them to win just because they do perform a little better at home than they do away. And if we look, they lost the first set of games from the season series, and I think that they're going to bounce back. If we look at their bats, they lead in home runs, they lead in batting average. I mean, it's still not great, but they lead in batting average, and they lead in RBIs. And I think that this data, the ERA here, and the WHIP are both comparable. So I do believe that the Nationals can at least squeak this one out. Next, we've got the Blue Jays and the Phillies. This is the one I probably spent the most time on. I originally had the Blue Jays while I was doing my research, but at the last second, I flipped it over to the Phillies. And the main reason that I did that is because of Ranger Suarez. He's got a 2.7 ERA. He is 4-1, so he's squeaking out these games. And if we look, he's allowed much less hits, much less strikeouts. Granted, he has much less work on his portfolio. But I still think that Philly's going to take this. If we look, Kyle Schwarber is absolutely dominating on home runs. Alejandro Kirk has the better batting average, but also Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper. I know Bryce Harper is getting kind of old. I'm not exactly sure how old Kyle Schwarber is. But I think, as inappropriate as this is, I think we also have to take the Castellanos effect into play. You know, Israel did just bomb Iran yesterday, which means Castellano is probably going to go off today. And I took that into account when I was choosing for the Phillies to win this game. Next, we have the Angels and the Orioles. This is the trash game of the day. And I will say that with my full chest. Both of these teams suck. And you can tell by looking at ESPN's matchup predictor. It's kind of even. They favor the Orioles. I favor the Orioles. And the reason that I favor the Orioles here over the Angels is nothing to do with the pitching. I didn't even look at the pitchers when I was choosing this. This was, the Orioles have slightly more consistent bats. They won the first part of the season series, and now that they are at Camden Yards, where they actually perform a little bit better than they do on the road, I think that the Orioles will at least get this first win under their belt. Next up, we've got the Reds and the Tigers. This one kind of surprised me because looking at name value and looking at what I know, my gut told me to go for the Tigers. But after looking at some of the analytics, I ended up taking the Reds on this one. And the reason that I did that is because the Tigers have proven to not be super consistent. Yes, they are a very good team. Yes, they are. I want to say that they're leading the Central. Yeah, they're leading the Central right now by 8 games, but they're not very consistent. As soon as you start to think that they're good, they go down a little bit. The Reds, however, are hot. If you look at their last 5 games, they've won 4 of the 5, and let's be honest, this last game against Cleveland was probably a throwaway, a little bit of a mercy game, because that's the only game that Cleveland won out of the Ohio Cup. So I took the Reds on this one. It's a plus money bet. And usually when there's a plus money team, and, well, I don't want to say that because most of the time there is a plus money team. Usually if there's a plus money team and it's looking as close as this, I like to take that plus money team just because you get a little bit more reward for a similar risk. Next, we have the Yankees, and like I said yesterday, and then I didn't follow up on that word, if you bet on the Yankees every day, you will end up plus money. And I feel like I kind of ate my own words yesterday by taking the Royals over the Yankees. And so this was mainly, claiming my mistake and moving on. If we look at the hitting, the Yankees, as we know, their torpedo bats are making a huge impact on this season. If we look at the pitching, Yarborough is 3-1, whereas Crochet is 6-4. Crochet is one of the more elite pitchers this season, but I think that the Yankees bats, they've been doing pretty well. Yes, they lost the series, the first round of the series, but they just went out, they swept Kansas City. The Red Sox haven't swept a team in a while. I think that the Yankees keep this streak, they win at least this game. And also, again, I thought it was kind of a toss-up given the series, or the first round of the series, and the Yankees are actually plus money today. So, similar to why I took the Reds is why I took the Yankees. Next, we've got the Rays and the Mets. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one. Like I said yesterday, the Mets, it's their World Series to lose. And I'm not saying that the Rays are bad. The Rays are actually a really good team this year. They're surprising me a lot, but I'm going to take the Mets as much as I can. Next, we've got the Rockies and the Braves. I took the Braves. Like I said yesterday, if you bet against the Rockies every day, you're going to end up net positive. And that was kind of my thought process there. Now we have the Rangers and the White Sox. I took the Rangers. Every time I bet for the Rangers, they lose. Every time I bet against the Rangers, they win. This one is kind of a toss-up. They don't even have their pitcher decided yet, and Adrian Hauser is a fairly solid pitcher. He's got a 1.48 ERA, but he also only has 24 innings pitched. So he doesn't have a lot of the portfolio for this year. And if we just look at the bats, he doesn't have a lot of portfolio, but the Rangers have a solid portfolio for their bats, whereas the White Sox don't. So I'm going to take the Rangers on this one. Even though they did lose the first part of the series, I'm going to say that they bounce back. Also because they are fairly close here in the American League West. They're only 5.5 games behind. And I know we're still really early in the season, so it's probably not smart to be looking at that right now. But I think the Rangers are going to pull this one out. Twins and the Astros. This is another difficult one. Took a lot of research for me to figure out who I think is going to win this one. Ultimately, I ended up taking the Astros. If we look at the matchup predictor, the Astros have the slight edge here. If we look at the pitching matchup, Gordon has a really bad ERA this year, but he also has only pitched in 2 games. Well, he's pitched in more, but he's 1-1, if that makes any more sense. If we look at the bats, the Astros have a slightly better bat, and I think with a 3.5 ERA and 7 games on your record, compared to a 5.11 ERA with 2 games on your record, I think that speaks a lot more to the consistency, whereas Colton Gordon, I just don't think he has the games under his belt right now. He hasn't really proven himself, and I'm going to bet on the Astros until he proves himself not worthy. So I'm going to take the Astros to win that one. Next game, we've got the A's and the Royals. I took the Royals on this one. If we look at Severino, he is 1-6 with almost a 5 ERA, whereas Wacha is 3-5 with a 3.01 ERA. Neither one of these pitchers are really fabulous. So this one came down to looking at their recent history. The Athletics and the Royals, they both are 1-4 in their last 5 games, but if we look at who they played, the Athletics just got swept by the Angels, 2 trash teams, and they got swept. Whereas the Royals just got swept by the Yankees. And not only did they just get swept by the Yankees, but they could have won last night had their pitcher not made that error. So I'm going to take the Royals. They've got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder from last night. I think they're going to win this one. Next up, we have the Cardinals and the Brewers. Another tricky one for me. I don't think I've won a Brewers call as of late. Usually that's one of the ones that I lose. And today I am taking the Brewers to win. Mainly because Peralta here, he's 5-4. He's got a 2.69 ERA, which is fairly solid, whereas Fetty here has a 3.54 ERA. And if we look at the bats, the Cardinals are a little bit more consistent. They get a little more runs across the board, but I think Milwaukee overall is slightly more elevated on those bats. So I took the Brewers to win this one. This is another toss-up game. Next we have the Padres and the Diamondbacks. This one was another really, really tricky one. I think this one and the Reds Tigers, those were the 2 that I spent the most time researching to try and predict who I thought was going to win. Ultimately, I ended up taking the Padres. Main factor was being that they're plus money, and it's kind of a toss-up game. Because if we look at the pitching, yes, Ryan Nelson has a 4.6 ERA. And I'm going to take that into account because they have Tatis, they have Manny Machado. they have some of the more household name players in the Padres lineup. So I think the Padres are going to take advantage of a pitcher with a high ERA, elevate that ERA a little bit, and take the win while they're plus money. Guardians and Mariners, if you want to fade me on one play, I'm going to say fade me on this one. I'll admit I am very, very biased. I've been a Guards fan my whole life, and it's really hard to convince me to bet against them, especially when you have a team that's under 500 in the Mariners. I really like Gavin Williams, and keeping that into account, and with the Guardians being plus money, Jose Ramirez is, doing what Jose Ramirez does. I took the Guards to win this. And lastly, we have the Giants and the Dodgers. This is our nightcap game. I took the Dodgers to win this. This one's another kind of toss-up. Yes, the Giants are plus money, but if you look, the Dodgers have almost a 68% chance to win this game. They have similar ERAs. They have similar whips. But if you look here at the bats, Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez, they all kind of, they carry the stats. And I think they carry the stats enough that they're going to win this game, if not this series. So those are my picks. Again, I do a full unit straight as well as either a quarter unit to a half unit, 2-leg round robin. Follow me if you want. Let me know in the comments if you're tailing, if you're fading, if you think I suck. Just let me know what you think in the comments. I think I'm going to be taking the weekends off, so maybe tomorrow I'll do kind of a recap video from the week, my biggest wins, my biggest losses. But I am not going to post another daily Moneylines video until Monday. If you want to see my picks for over the weekend, because I'm still going to be making them, then add me on Pikkit. My username is going to be down below. Make sure you like and subscribe if you like this kind of content, and I will see you guys all on Monday. Peace.